Welcome to another video from the listening section, and in this lesson I'm going to share with you a strategy for dealing with diagrams and flowcharts in the listening section. Diagrams and flowcharts appear in different occasions throughout the IELTS exam. You'll find them in the reading section as well as the listening section, and most notably, you'll find them in writing task 1, where you are asked to describe and summarize and report in your essay about a diagram or a flow chart or a graph. So becoming familiar with diagrams and flow charts and how to deal with them is an important skill in the IELTS exam. Now, you don't have to understand everything about it. You just have to recognize the important points in the diagrams and be able to deal with them in whatever section you're facing. And in the listening section, you're usually asked to complete the diagram or flow chart with words that you hear in the recording and put them in the appropriate gap. So let's get started on our strategy for diagrams and flowcharts. And again, we begin with the instructions. Always be sure that this important first step is something that you take for every type of question you face in the listening section. You're going to listen to the instructions so that you know the context and the situation that you're listening to. You want to be aware, depending on what section of the listening test you're in, that you know the context, because, for example, in the first section of the listening exam, you're always listening to two people talking together to make arrangements. In section 2, you're listening to one person speak about something that's happening in the community, a city event, or some kind of feature that's being described. In section 3, you're always listening to more than two people, a group of people describing a project or a situation. And in section 4, you are listening to a talk or an academic lecture given by one person. So this is why it's really important to listen for the context at the beginning of each section, so that you know the situation that you're going to be listening to in the recording. And then again, we always read the instructions so that we know what we have to accomplish for the task. And in this situation, the instructions clearly say no more than 3 words and a number. So this could mean 2 words and a number, and or 3 words or less than 3 words, as long as you don't use more than 3 words and a number. And again, you want to underline these to make sure you've seen them, so that there's no second guessing as to whether you know exactly the task that you're accomplishing and how many words you're limited to in your answer. So always be clear and never neglect this important first step when it comes to any question you face in the listening test. Then something that's very unique and very important when it comes to diagrams and flowcharts is that you are looking at an illustration of some type. You're looking at a picture of a process or a situation. And the most important thing you can do right away is to get an overview of what you're dealing with. And the way that you do this with a diagram or flow chart is to underline the title, first of all, and then underline and mark all the labels that are included in the diagram, because as you do this, you'll become familiar and have an overview and anticipate what you're going to hear. So we've underlined the title in this diagram, and then we have various labels. We know that we're dealing with a global satellite, and it has to do with a meteorological station where information is analyzed. There's a boat that's included in the process, and we have floats that record the whole process. So you want to just be aware and get a good overview of the diagram or flowchart by, first of all, underlining and marking all the titles and the labels. Then we can begin to look at the specific questions we have to answer and predict the type of answers that we're listening for. And in this situation, we can put in some notes that will help us know the type of word that we're listening for. For example, in number 23, we know that we're listening for a verb. And that will be an important thing. So whatever word we hear, we want to make sure that we identify a verb to put in that gap. In number 24, we're going to be looking for a distance. So it will probably be a number. And we're going to want to listen for a distance. And if we're out on the ocean and we get the context of this global satellite and the recordings that it's doing, it's probably going to be a distance in kilometers. But that's just something that we're predicting and guessing about, but an important thing because we have a good overview having looked at the different labels on the diagram. And then in number 25, we'll be listening for a noun, because whenever we fill in gaps like this and we're putting in words from the recording, identifying whether it's a verb or a noun is important, because we want to make sure that the sentence that we're filling the gap in is grammatically accurate. And this is a good way to check and make sure that your answers are correct, is if it makes the sentence grammatically accurate. And then as we continue to prepare to listen, we're going to want to be aware of any words that could be synonyms, because the words that we want to fill in will be exact words from the recording, but the words surrounding it, the phrase or the sentence that the words included in, will not be exactly the same. For example, the float dropped into the ocean. Well, maybe the word dropped will be lowered or submerged. Okay, there are different possibilities. So you want to be aware of words that could be possible synonyms as you're listening for the answers. And then just be aware also of possible distractions. One of the things that it happens through every listening recording throughout the listening section is that there are distractions. They might say the float was lowered into the ocean at 8 a.m. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was lowered at 7 a.m. So you want to the way to deal with distractions is to be patient, make sure you listen to the complete thought, and then put in your answer. But as soon as you're aware of the answer, don't delay. That's not the time for patience. Write the word in immediately and move and prepare for the answer to the next question. And these questions will come in order because it's describing a cycle or a process. So you know that the words will come in order. And then you just begin to answer. And remember, just keep moving forward. If you miss a question, don't panic. Move on and get ready and prepare for the next one. Your goal is to get as many correct as possible. Missing one question will not destroy your score, but missing 2 or 3 questions could. So always move forward. If you miss one question, make sure you're prepared to answer the next one. I hope you found this helpful. And I want to wish you all the best as you continue to prepare for the IELTS exam.